So today we're diving into how the Baha'i Faith views all these different economic and governance systems out there.
Sounds interesting.
I think our listeners will find it pretty fascinating, especially since they're already familiar with, how the Baha'i teachings emphasize things like unity and justice and all those spiritual principles.
Yeah, it's not your typical capitalism versus socialism debate.
Exactly.
It's something different.
Right out of the gate, the Baha'i writings kind of offer a unique perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to be drawing on writings from Baha'u'llah,
of course,
the founder of the religion, as well as from Abdu'l-Baha, his son, and Shoghi Effendi, his great-grandson.
Okay, sounds good.
I think it's going to be a great deep dive.
Yeah, I think so too.
To give everyone a sense of where we're headed with all this,
okay,
Shoghi Effendi actually described the Baha'i vision of the future as he said it's a world that is organically unified in all the essential aspects of its life. But get this, he also said it's one that still respects all the diversity of different cultures.
That's pretty amazing.
It's a pretty wild vision when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
To kind of unpack it all.
Yeah.
Let's just start by thinking about how the Baha'i teachings approach capitalism.
Okay, sure.
Now, we all know that capitalism has, it's fueled a lot of innovation and economic growth.
Definitely.
But it's also
created some big problems along the way.
Yeah, huge problems.
Absolutely.
While we all can recognize that potential for good, the Baha'i writings also highlight the dangers of unchecked capitalism.
Right.
For example, Abdu'l-Baha talked about the need for a balance where everybody's basic needs are met, while still allowing for individual initiative and differences in material wealth.
So it's not about saying, everybody gets the same amount.
No.
It's more nuanced than that.
It is.
It's about making sure there's, a baseline level of well-being. Right.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that actually work in practice?
Yeah, good question.
Does the Baha'i Faith, lay out specific solutions?
Well, it's not like a super rigid economic system.
Okay.
But they do provide guiding principles.
Okay.
And some pretty intriguing ideas.
Like what?
Well, for instance, they talk about a concept called hukala.
Hukala.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is this voluntary contribution to a central fund that would be used for social and economic development.
Oh.
This goes beyond, just typical tax systems because it really emphasizes individual moral responsibility and a spirit of generosity.
So it's not just the government taking your money and redistributing it?
No, not at all.
It's more about people consciously choosing to contribute to the well-being of,
others,
the community, society.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty different from that every man for himself idea that we see so often.
Right. Very different.
Yeah.
And it also ties into this whole concept of the spiritualization of wealth.
Okay. What's that?
So it's where material possessions aren't seen as automatically bad.
Right.
But they're viewed as tools to be used to, better humanity.
Okay.
So it's all about aligning our economic activities with our spiritual values.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see a pattern here, where individual initiative's important, but it exists within this framework of moral responsibility.
Yeah.
That seems to be a core theme in the Baha'i perspective.
It is.
But wouldn't that require a massive shift in how we think about, wealth and our purpose in life and all that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've kind of explored how the Baha'i teachings approach capitalism.
Right.
Now let's switch gears and think about socialism.
Right.
You're familiar with its aims for social justice and collective welfare and all that.
How did the Baha'i writings view this system?
Well, the Baha'i teachings acknowledge the good intentions behind socialism.
Okay.
Particularly its emphasis on addressing inequality.
Right.
And meeting everyone's basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a strong alignment there with Baha'i principles of justice and unity.
But I'm guessing there are also some concerns, right?
You're right. It's rarely that simple.
It never is.
The Baha'i writings raise concerns about the potential downsides of excessive collectivism.
Uh-huh. Like what?
Well, for instance, if individual initiative is stifled or if there's too much centralized control, It can lead to stagnation or even authoritarianism.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, between meeting those collective needs, but also allowing for individual expression and growth.
It's about striking a balance.
Yeah.
And to achieve that, the Baha'i writings emphasize the importance of institutions that can balance individual and collective interests.
Through consultation.
Okay.
So one example is the concept of the House of Justice.
The House of Justice?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's an elected body
Oh.
that makes decisions through a process of consultation.
Interesting.
And they strive to apply spiritual principles to, like all these social and economic challenges that we face.
So it's not just like, a group of people sitting around making decisions based on their own opinions.
Right.
There's a deeper process involved.
Yes, definitely.
This idea of consultation, I'm sensing that's pretty crucial to the Baha'i approach.
It is. It is.
Can you elaborate on how that works in practice?
So consultation in a Baha'i context goes way beyond simple majority rule.
Okay.
It's about bringing together all these diverse perspectives, listening respectfully to each other, and striving to reach a consensus that benefits the entire community.
So it's not just like, I vote for what I want and you vote for what you want, and whoever gets the most votes wins.
It's deeper.
It's about considering the needs of, like, everybody involved.
Exactly.
And coming up with solutions that
uplift everyone.
Yeah. That seems like a really powerful idea.
It is.
But it would require a lot of effort and, maturity.
It would.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
This concept of consultation, it seems like it could apply not just to governance, but to economic decision-making too, right?
Absolutely right.
Like, imagine businesses or even communities making choices through this kind of lens, where they're really considering the long-term impact on everyone who's involved.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating idea.
It is fascinating.
It challenges a lot of our assumptions about how systems should work.
It does.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that require, like, a fundamental shift in our mindset and our values and
it would.
How we see the world?
That's what makes the Baha'i perspective so thought-provoking. It's not about just tweaking existing systems.
Right.
It's about a complete transformation of consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, a transformation of consciousness.
Yeah, it's not just about changing the rules of the game. It's about changing the players themselves, so to speak.
Exactly.
It's like fostering a new consciousness.
Right. Now, moving on from just capitalism and socialism.
Oh, okay.
There's this other system that we should probably talk about.
Theocracy.
Ah, yes. Theocracy.
Where religious leaders hold political power.
Right. I know the Bahá'í Faith has some strong opinions on that.
Oh, very strong. The Baha'i teachings totally reject theocracy in any form.
Interesting.
They recognize how combining religious authority with political power can lead to abuse and suppression of individual rights.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we've been talking about how the Baha'i Faith is deeply rooted in spiritual principles. Yet they draw a clear line between religion and governance.
Yes. Abdu'l-Baha actually addressed this directly.
He said, I'm paraphrasing here, that while religion is a source of illumination and guidance, if it becomes a cause of conflict and bloodshed, it's better to be without it.
Wow. So basically, religion should inspire ethical behavior, but not dictate laws or control people's lives.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder why the separation isn't more common.
Right. It's a question worth thinking about.
It is.
But to bring it back to the Baha'i perspective, they advocate for a system of governance that's grounded in justice, consultation, and unity.
Okay.
Think of institutions that are free from corruption.
Yeah.
That operate transparently. And that make decisions based on the well-being of all, not just a select few.
Okay, so we've talked about what the Baha'i teachings don't advocate for.
Right.
Unchecked capitalism, socialism that stifles individual initiative and theocracy in any form.
Definitely.
So what do they propose in their place?
Well,
what does this third path actually look like?
The Baha'i writings don't offer a detailed blueprint or anything, but they do provide some fascinating glimpses into a possible future.
Okay, I like glimpses.
One key element is this concept of a world federation.
A world federation, that's a big idea.
It is.
I can imagine some people might hear that and think global government,
Right, scary.
Yeah, scary.
But the Baha'i vision is something quite different.
How so?
It's not about a centralized world government that dictates everything from above.
Okay.
It's more about a system of global governance that can address issues that go beyond national borders.
Like what kind of issues?
Well, think climate change,
Yeah.
international conflict,
Yeah.
ensuring fair trade practices.
Those are some big ones.
They're challenges that no single country can really solve on its own.
Right. It makes me think of how the world came together to address the hole in the ozone layer back in the 80s with the Montreal Protocol. That gives me some hope, you know?
It's a great example of how international cooperation can actually work.
Yes.
And that's really the heart of the Baha'i vision for a world federation.
Okay.
Nations coming together to address shared challenges with institutions and mechanisms for like conflict resolution and decision-making that are just and equitable.
I mean, that would definitely require a huge shift in thinking.
It would.
Right now, we see a lot of us versus them mentality, even between countries that are supposed to be allies.
It's true.
How do we bridge that gap?
Well, the Baha'i teachings emphasize the importance of education.
Okay.
Not just acquiring knowledge and stuff,
right.
but developing our capacity for critical thinking, empathy, understanding different perspectives.
So fostering a global citizenry that sees humanity as one family, despite our differences.
Exactly.
So education isn't just about job skills.
No.
It's about fostering a global consciousness.
It is.
This sense of shared responsibility for the planet and each other.
You got it.
Okay, so alongside a world federation and this focus on education, what other elements are important to this third path?
Well, we talked about how the Baha'i teachings approach economic systems,
Right.
emphasizing both individual initiative and collective well-being.
Yeah.
They envision a global economy where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, but where material prosperity isn't pursued at the expense of justice and spiritual values.
That brings us back to the spiritualization of wealth idea.
Right.
Using our resources to make humanity better.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Mm-hmm.
The World Federation provides that framework for global cooperation.
Right.
Education empowers individuals and fosters a global consciousness. And the spiritualization of wealth makes sure that economic activity serves a higher purpose.
That's got it.
But this third path isn't just about structures and systems, right?
No, it's also about cultivating a new way of being in the world,
Oh.
both individually and collectively.
So let's talk about that. How can we as individuals and as a global community start to embody this new way of being?
Yeah.
How do we take these lofty ideals and make them real in our lives?
Well, it's a journey.
Okay.
It starts within each of us. It begins with really recognizing that interconnectedness,
Okay.
that sense of shared humanity,
Uh-huh.
and then translating that awareness into action.
So it's not just about thinking about these abstract ideals, but it's about like actually making those ideals real in our lives.
Exactly.
Okay.
One practical step is to like consciously cultivate those moral and spiritual qualities that we've been talking about, honesty,
Right.
trustworthiness, generosity, compassion.
Those are big ones.
They are.
Yeah.
So think about,
Okay.
how you interact with other people, how you conduct your business, how you use your resources.
I can see how those qualities would be really crucial in building a just and sustainable economic system.
Yeah.
If everyone operated from a place of integrity, it would change the whole dynamic.
It would.
Now, zooming out a bit to a broader level,
Okay.
the Bahá'í writings talk a lot about promoting unity and diversity.
They do.
And that applies not just to individuals, but to communities and nations.
Right.
So how do we move from all this polarization and division that we see to a place of genuine unity?
Well, the Baha'i teachings really emphasize the importance of consultation.
Right. We talked about that earlier.
We did. And this principle can be applied at like every level of society.
Okay.
Imagine communities coming together
Yeah.
to make decisions that benefit everybody.
Right. Not just a select few.
Exactly.
It makes me think of those towns that have implemented, what's it called? Participatory budgeting,
Oh, yeah.
where residents directly decide how to allocate public funds.
That's a good one.
It's messy,
It is.
but it seems to like foster a sense of collective ownership and responsibility.
Yeah, it's a great example. It aligns with that Baha'i idea of fostering a spirit of collaboration and shared decision-making. It's about moving away from that us versus them mentality
Yeah.
and recognizing that, we're all in this together.
This concept of consultation could also be applied to global challenges,
For sure.
like climate change, right?
Absolutely. No single country can solve that problem alone.
It's going to require a collective effort.
It will.
The Baha'i writings talk about this world federation where
Yeah.
nations actually work together to address these global challenges.
Right. They believe that some degree of national sovereignty might need to be yielded
Wow.
for the sake of the common good.
That's a tough one for a lot of nations to
Okay.
accept.
It is.
It's a question of priorities, isn't it?
It is.
Is national pride more important than the planet surviving?
It's a question we all have to wrestle with.
We do.
And it leads to another key aspect of the Baha'i vision for the future,
Okay.
education.
We talked about education as a way to foster that global consciousness. But what should that education actually look like?
Right.
What kind of knowledge and skills do we need to build this new world?
Well, it goes beyond just memorizing facts and figures.
Right.
The Baha'i writings emphasize developing that capacity we all have
Okay.
for critical thinking, for empathy, understanding different perspectives.
It sounds like we're talking about educating the whole person.
Yeah, not just training workers for the economy.
It's about nurturing our spiritual and ethical development alongside our intellectual and practical skill.
Right. And this kind of education is essential for everybody, individuals and leaders.
So we need leaders who can, think systemically, embrace complexity, navigate the challenges of this globalized world with wisdom and compassion.
Exactly. Leaders who understand that true power lies in serving others, not dominating them.
Leaders who are committed to justice, unity, the well-being of all, not just a select few.
It's a tall order.
It is. It's a tall order, but it feels essential if we're going to make it through the 21st century and beyond.
Yeah.
It makes me think about that quote from Shoghi Effendi again, where he describes a world that's, organically unified.
It's a beautiful vision.
It is beautiful.
It's also daunting.
It is. I think a lot of people hearing this might feel overwhelmed.
I can see that.
Where do we even start?
When I first started exploring these Baha'i teachings, I felt that same sense of overwhelm.
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
But I've realized that it's not about trying to solve every problem all at once.
Right.
It's not about single-handedly changing the world.
Yeah.
It's about taking those small steps, starting with ourselves, and trusting that those individual efforts, multiplied across the globe, are going to create a ripple effect.
So it's about each of us playing our part.
Exactly.
However small it might seem.
It might seem small, but yeah.
And trusting that those collective efforts are going to lead to a brighter future.
Exactly. Think of it like planting a seed.
Oh.
You don't see the full-grown tree right away.
Right.
It takes time,
Yeah.
patience, nurturing.
It does.
But eventually, with care and attention, that tiny seed can grow into something magnificent.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Thank you.
It reminds us that building a new world is a long-term process. This is a generational endeavor.
It is.
It's not about achieving some utopian endpoint.
Yeah.
It's about constantly striving for a more just, peaceful, and unified world.
Exactly.
So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into the Baha'i perspective on economic and governance systems, the question I'm left with is this.
Okay.
What kind of world do we want to create?
Yeah.
And what role will each of us play in making that happen?
That's a great question to end on.
It is. And as you continue to explore the Baha'i I Chings, I hope you keep that question in mind.
I will.
It can guide our actions, inspire our choices, and ultimately lead us toward a future that's filled with hope, unity, and progress.
It's a future worth working towards.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.